Hi, Sarah. How are you?
Hi, good. How are you?
I am well. Welcome to Short and Sweet Homeschooling.
Great. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're happy to have you here sharing some of your experience today. Do you want to share a little bit with us about your background?
Sure. So my name is Sara Alexander. I am an early childhood mental health consultant. So I work with little kiddos all the way through school age and after school programs. Um, I have two children of my own, a 3 and a 5-year-old. So I'm doing a little bit of homeschooling right now as well with virtual school and for my little one. And my background is in mental health. I have a master's in clinical psychology, and before that I was a teacher. So I've got a little bit of a broad range of experience with children.
If my child is struggling in a certain topic, like let's say reading or, math, how do we assess whether there's a need there?
So my biggest suggestion, kind of overall, whether it's mental health or academic, is to trust your gut. So, you may not have a teaching background or a mental health background, but that doesn't mean that you don't know your child because you're an expert in your own child, right? So if you feel like there's something off or that's just not quite right, kind of your first best bet is to reach out to your pediatrician. It's so important to have a pediatrician that you feel comfortable with. There's a lot of great private companies and agencies that can provide things like speech therapy. And, if there's any other kind of developmental concerns, there's a lot of great private agencies, if you're not in the public school, that could provide some extra support.
What are some of the triggers and behaviors that one can evaluate and look at and say, I think I need to get my child checked?
Some things to look out for if they're really resisting engaging with school, if they're really just struggling through their work and unable to get it completed, and it's, you're confident it's at their grade level and your presentation is as engaging as possible. All children will be bored with a particular topic, right? That's not really a sign of an issue. It might just be they don't like history, so they don't want to engage in a history lesson. But if, kind of across the board, you're feeling like they're just not meeting what the expectations are that you have for them, that would be a good sign that, something's a little off. I would kind of think about it in different domains. So, look at them academically, behavior-wise, if, they're having lots of outbursts, if they're not making eye contact, if they're having a really hard time expressing how they feel or exploding often, if just communication is off, anything like that, that's just like, I don't have a lot of experience with kids, but most kids I've met have not had these issues. That feels a little off to me. I would trust your gut on that one, and it doesn't hurt to get an evaluation. That's what I always tell parents.
What are some of the typical issues you see, or the most prevalent, right? And does it vary by level?
I think so, only because certain things become more concerning as they get older. So sometimes, if you have a 3-year-old who's not sharing, that might not be an issue. But if they're still having trouble with sharing by 4 and 5, then we become more concerned. So sometimes as kids age, it becomes more apparent, because as they reach the developmental level that they, it shouldn't be an issue anymore, then we say, okay, well, they're still back at grade 1 and they should really be at this grade 3 level. So maybe there's a deficit there somewhere. I wanted to mention too, around mental health issues, there are lots of great services for mental health that can be, if you feel like your child is really anxious, having a lot of nightmares or not sleeping, or like I said, with the outbursts, or really angry, or having difficulty expressing emotions, having difficulty socially with other kids. then I would definitely, advocate to get a therapist for your child. Right now, because of COVID, a lot of therapists are doing virtual therapy, which is sort of nice because then you don't have to worry about getting to an office and rushing over there and trying to get there on time. And it can be a little less intimidating for kids too.
Do you have recommendations for what a mother or a father can do at home with a child that exhibits behavioral issues?
I can say generally good parenting practices, whether your child is struggling or not, are staying consistent. So, if you give a consequence, sticking with that consequence, giving lots of praise. So when you see the behavior you do want to see, making a really big deal out of that and not having such a big reaction to the negative behavior. So what we can end up doing is, say a child has a meltdown, we have a big reaction, and that almost reinforces that behavior, like, ooh, that got mommy and daddy's attention. You can get some great visuals online, which I'll talk about, and make your own little quiet area. So I always recommend that for parents. If you can find a corner that's cozy, not a naughty corner, not a timeout corner, but chill zone or quiet area. You can call it whatever you want. Some people will call it their Zen den. But in that area, having maybe some calming music or some books on emotions or some visuals of different emotions faces, someplace supportive that they can go and decompress. There's lots of great things on Pinterest, as most moms and dads know. Calm down jars are really great, and that's something really easy to make. And that's just with glue and glitter and water, and making sure that the cap is really tight on that water bottle. And then they can sort of watch that glitter slowly fall down, and that can be really calming for children. I also have this great book. You can find this on Amazon. I use this with my son, called Breathe Like a Bear. It's all different exercises, breathing exercises. So it goes through the whole prompt and has a sweet little picture with it. And you can find that on Amazon. That's Breathe Like a Bear by Kira Wiley. And my oldest kiddo is very anxious. So that's really helpful for him. And sometimes when he's really overstimulated too, that can help kind of bring his kind of sensory overload down a little bit and help him think more clearly.
Behavior that I particularly face with my youngest, right, is again their need for attention, right? So as I'm dedicating time to the older children, maybe tutoring them in math or any dedicated time with them, my younger daughter will want to get some time for herself, right? Any advice there that you can offer for how to deal with that?
For my littlest, if I'm, say, heading into a virtual classroom session with my 5-year-old, which is usually about half an hour to 45 minutes where I really can't be interrupted. I really can't be playing with her. I will give her a heads up ahead of time, like, John's going to start school in a few minutes. Let's find you something to do. So I set her up with a few activities ahead of time. She also has her own bin of school supplies. So I have kind of some, unicorn coloring pages and some fidgets and some cool little things for her, activities that she doesn't need my help with. Ahead of time, I have one of those little scribble boards that you push the button and it disappears. Just little cute stuff you can find at that dollar section in Target or the dollar store. That can be really helpful to have their special bin of stuff that they get to use when the older siblings are doing schoolwork. Another great tool, especially for that age, is a timer. So this one is awesome, but there's also free apps on your phone that you can get. Just type in visual timer. And this one, it's going to end up beeping, and I apologize about that. But you turn it, and I would look for a timer that's like this, where it counts down. especially for littles that don't understand time. When you say, I'll be there in 10 minutes, they think that they're going to die and that's eternity and they're never going to make it that long. But having the timer where it slowly goes away, they can kind of gauge that, okay, time is counting down. Mommy's almost going to be ready for me.
Which activities, tools, or resources would you recommend to moms or dads that are schooling at home?
So some things that I've done for my kiddo, he's got kind of a dedicated space. That's his school space. That's his school stuff. So that's really helpful for him to have, it's this tiny little desk, but it's his and he's got his things there and it's organized and kind of ready for him to learn every day. If you are teaching or attempting to teach when you've got multiple other kiddos around, some children really like having headphones. So that can be either when they're listening to things. You can also buy noise canceling headphones that are just to muffle sounds. Also, if you've got a child who's having a hard time sitting still and focusing while they're learning, having fidgets, that can be really helpful. So my son can't get through a lesson online without having his fidgets available because he is one of those kids who has ants in his pants and just can't sit, can't sit still. A lot of children listen better when their hands are busy. So it's like slow torture to have them sit with their hands in their lap and just focus on the teacher, but they can listen and take in what she's saying much more easily if they have something in their hands to kind of fiddle with and fidget. There are also some great, again on Amazon, they're called balance discs, but and they're meant for exercise, but what you can actually use them for is to put under their bare feet on the floor. They've got little bumps on them, so it gives them some sensory stimulation on the bottom of their feet, which can help some children really focus. They can also sit on them. They're durable enough for them to sit on. They have a little bit of air, so they can kind of wiggle their buns back and forth. I'll be sharing a website called the Pyramid Model Consortium, which has lots of great free visuals for parents. They're in English and in Spanish. So they have articles for parents. They also have visuals like different emotions, faces, and in different examples for things you might use at home, like a visual schedule, which can be really helpful. Some kids are really concrete and need to know what their day is going to look like. If you're homeschooling and doing it at your pace throughout the day, I'd say it's always okay to make accommodations. If it's something that helps your child learn more easily and you're honoring what their body needs, then that's always an A+, a good decision.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Sara. We are really excited that you had the opportunity to do this with us. We appreciate your input and your advice. As always, if you have any questions or comments for Sara, please feel free to share those on our group in the comment section. And thank you and have a great one. Thanks, Sara.